The night shift began with silence too complete to be natural. The psychiatric hospital stood on the hill like a dead thing refusing burial. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere deep in the west wing, metal struck metal once, then stopped. Dr. Alara Voss slowed her steps when she saw Noah standing outside his locked room. He should not have been there. He was supposed to be sedated. Yet he stood barefoot in the corridor, his head tilted slightly, as though listening to a voice inside the walls. A colder draft moved through the hallway. Mara's breath caught as the overhead light above Noah began to pulse in irregular rhythm, turning him into a sequence of still photographs. In each flicker, he seemed closer.
Doctor, I locked his door myself.
Noah, look at me. How did you get out?
She opened it for me. The woman in the ceiling.
Inside observation room 3, the air smelled of bleach and something older beneath it. Noah sat restrained, but his posture remained oddly calm, almost reverent. Alara opened his file and found new writing across the last page in charcoal black pencil. She had not written it. No one had. Room 19 remembers your name. Her hands tightened around the folder. Room 19 had been sealed 23 years ago, after the deaths of 2 patients and 1 doctor. The official report called it a gas leak, but the survivors had used other words. Singing. Shadows. Faces in the vents. Alara had read those words only once, years ago, and never told anyone. Noah lifted his eyes slowly. He smiled without warmth. The smile did not feel like his.
Who told you about room 19?
You did. When you were 6 years old and hiding under the chapel stairs.
Doctor, that's not possible.
She's awake again.
They descended below the active ward where the hospital's older bones still showed through. Pipes sweated overhead. The corridor narrowed toward a rusted security gate chained shut decades ago. Alara's flashlight trembled over the faded paint on the wall. Room 19. Before she could speak, a voice came from behind them. Low, fragile, ancient. Brother Silas stepped out of the chapel passage, as though he had been waiting in the dark for years. His face looked thinner than memory, his eyes hollowed by things that sleep could not cure. He told them the records lied. There had been no gas leak. Patients in room 19 had begun describing the same woman night after night, a woman with no eyes, who whispered their worst memories back to them until they begged to be silenced. Then the staff started seeing her too.
This place does not heal broken minds. It feeds on them.
You knew about this all along?
I helped bury the truth.
Then why is it happening again now?
Because someone remembered her name.
The door to room 19 opened with almost no resistance. Inside, the walls were covered from floor to ceiling in sentences scratched by fingernails, pen tips, broken spoons, every surface layered with desperate repetition. She speaks in my voice. Don't let her see you thinking. Alara. Alara stepped closer to the cracked mirror above the sink. At first, she saw only herself. Pale face, tired eyes, the discipline of a doctor already fraying. Then the reflection delayed by 1 second. Her reflected self smiled gently, though Alara had not. Mara screamed when a second figure appeared in the glass behind Alara. A tall, woman-shaped darkness with no visible face, only a hollow blur where features should have been. Brother Silas began to pray, but his words faltered as the room answered in Alara's own childhood voice.
That's not me.
Don't look at it, Doctor. Don't listen.
In the name of...
Ilara heard the voice she had buried for 28 years. The night her mother died in this hospital, begging someone unseen to stop singing. They followed the humming through the sealed ward and down into the hospital's abandoned hydrotherapy chamber. The empty pool below looked like a grave dug for something immense. Noah stood in the center, barefoot on cracked tile, head bowed as red emergency light revolved over him. The whispering grew louder until it became impossible to separate from thought itself. Ilara descended the steps alone. She understood now with a terrible clarity. Whatever lived in room 19 did not choose strangers. It rooted itself in memory, in guilt, in grief left untreated. It had entered Noah through his fractures, and now it wanted hers. Then Noah looked up. Blood ran from both ears. He spoke with two voices at once. One was his. The other was female, deep, and almost tender.
She left you here, Ilara, and you never forgave her.
You are not her. You are not what I remember.
Memory is the only door I need.
Doctor, come back!
Do not answer it with your pain.
Water burst upward from the old drains in violent, black surges. The pool floor shook. The walls answered with hundreds of overlapping knocks, as if the entire hospital had become a coffin full of impatient hands. Noah's spine bent backward with a sickening crack, but he remained standing, suspended by something invisible and merciless. Ilara closed her eyes through the panic. She stopped fighting the memory and forced herself to see it whole. Her mother screaming, not at a monster, but at herself, at the illness that had twisted love into terror. The hospital had fed on that wound for decades, because wounds denied never stop bleeding. When Ilara spoke next, her voice steadied. The whispering hesitated. For the first time that night, the darkness seemed capable of fear.
I remember her. I remember all of it. And you don't get to wear her face anymore.
Then I will wear yours.
Let the truth break what was hidden.
Ilara, behind you!
Dawn entered the hospital reluctantly, as if light itself distrusted the place. The hydrotherapy chamber had flooded and then gone still. Noah survived, though he remembered nothing after the observation room. Brother Silas did not come back up with them. Only his old cross was found near the stairs, half submerged in black water that disappeared before sunrise. Ilara sat in the corridor wrapped in a gray blanket, unable to warm her hands. Mara said the West Wing would finally be condemned. Records would be reviewed, doors sealed, statements taken. The language of institutions had already begun. Contained, unfortunate, isolated. But as a gurney rolled Noah past her, Ilara noticed fresh condensation blooming on the overhead light above him. A woman's voice, almost affectionate, moved through the electric hum.
You remembered me.
Ilara did not look up.
It's over, isn't it?
No, it's only quiet.
And somewhere beyond the sealed door of room 19, something patient began to sing again. 3 nights later, the West Wing was officially closed. The staff were told to avoid rumors, avoid speculation, avoid the lower levels entirely. But fear does not obey memos. Ilara returned after midnight because Noah had drawn a door over and over across the walls of his new room. A black rectangle with no handle and one sentence beneath it in trembling strokes. She is walking now. The condemned wing felt different from before. Not louder, worse, quieter. The kind of quiet that made every breath sound intrusive. Portable work lights had been left in the corridor, but half of them were dead, leaving islands of harsh white separated by thick darkness. Somewhere inside the sealed section, a woman hummed a lullaby Ilara had not heard since childhood.
We should call security and leave this to them.
Security cannot arrest a memory.
Then what are we even doing here?
Finding out what followed me out of room 19.
Before opening the condemned wing, Ilara checked Noah one last time. He had not slept. The room camera showed hours of stillness broken only by moments when he turned his head slowly toward the upper corner of the ceiling and listened. Now the walls around him were filled with drawings done in charcoal stolen from the art cart. Faceless women, flooded hallways, a staircase descending into black water. In every image, a small child stood at the far edge of the frame. Noah did not greet Ilara when she entered. He touched the floor with 2 fingers, as if feeling vibrations through concrete. Then he smiled faintly, not with possession this time, but with exhausted pity.
She isn't in me anymore.
Then where is she?
In the part of the building they never tore down.
What part?
The children's ward, under the chapel.
The passage under the chapel had been hidden behind shelving in an old records room. The door opened inward with damp resistance. The smell that came out was not rot exactly. It was antiseptic, mildew, and the sweet, stale scent of abandoned childhood. Their flashlights moved over tiny beds, rusted rails, faded wall paintings of smiling suns and lambs. Someone had tried to make this place comforting once. That effort now made it unbearable. Toys lay scattered across the floor in a careful curve, as though arranged for a game no one finished. On the nearest wall, beneath layers of peeling paint, Ilara found names carved into the plaster by small hands. One of them stopped her cold. Ilara 5. The date beside it matched the year her mother had been committed. But Ilara had no memory of ever being brought here.
This wing isn't in any floor plan.
I was here.
You said your mother was treated upstairs.
Then I was lied to.
In the playroom, Ilara found rows of patient files reduced to pulp by damp, except for one locked metal box hidden beneath the desk. Mara forced it open with a broken chair leg. Inside was a reel-to-reel tape, neatly labeled in fading ink. Session 14, E. Voss. The machine still had power, somehow. When Ilara pressed play, static filled the room first. Then came a small voice. Her voice. Younger. Fragile. Answering questions asked by a woman Ilara did not recognize. The session was not therapy. It was an interview. They had asked the child Ilara what she saw when her mother changed. They asked whether the singing woman came before or after the violence. They asked whether Ilara could still hear her when she closed her eyes. The final answer on the tape was followed by 6 full seconds of silence. And then the recorder captured a second voice, close to the microphone, whispering from nowhere.
She lives where sad people go when no one believes them.
And you left me there alone.
Turn it off. Turn it off right now.
They knew. They all knew.
The tape recorder clicked off. Immediately, every emergency light in the ward dimmed to a blood-red glow. Somewhere at the far end of the corridor, a child began crying. Low at first, then sharp, then suddenly cut short. Water spilled from under the sealed treatment room doors, but this was not ordinary floodwater. It was thick, black, and reflective like moving glass. It spread too quickly, ignoring the slope of the floor. Mara backed away as shapes moved inside it, blurred faces surfacing and sinking without a ripple. Then the murals on the walls changed. Under the peeling paint, new images pushed through. Children standing in a circle around a woman with no face, hands joined, mouths open in song. Ilara felt the building lean around them like a listening body. It had not been haunting them. It had been remembering itself.
Ilara, we have to run!
Stay behind me. Don't look into it.
You came back to the first room.
Who is that?
At the end of the corridor, the final door stood open. The chamber beyond was circular, lined with dark observation glass. A restraint chair sat in the center beneath a surgical lamp. Clinical notes had been written directly on the walls. Agitation, auditory fixation, inherited instability, child witness retained for observation. Not treatment, study. Ilara understood then that her mother had not simply been ill inside a cruel institution. Something had happened in this hidden ward, and the doctors had chosen to observe it rather than stop it. The singing woman was not born from madness alone. She had been shaped by neglect, fear, and repetition, fed by every patient abandoned inside these rooms, until she became something with memory, hunger, and voice. The black water rose into a standing figure before Ilara. It had no face, yet she felt recognized by it more deeply than by any living person she had ever known.
They listened while I grew inside the sorrow.
You are what they made when they stopped seeing us as human.
And now you finally see me.
Ilara, please don't go closer.
The chamber began to shake as if something enormous had rolled over in its sleep beneath the foundation. The observation windows cracked from inside, and behind the glass, Ilara saw brief silhouettes of doctors, nurses, and children frozen in impossible stillness, like trapped photographs. She stepped to the wall and tore down the clinical notes one by one, diagnosis sheets, incident summaries, restraint orders, language made to hide cruelty behind precision. With each page ripped free, the entity's body shuddered. The room dimmed and brightened in violent pulses. Ilara did the only thing left. She spoke every name she could read from the carved walls, from the ruined files, from the notes. She named the children. She named her mother. She named herself. The chamber answered with a sound that was half scream, half hymn.
You were here. You were real. They do not get to erase you again.
Ilara, Mara, open the doors.
Ilara, the ceiling is coming down.
Then let it fall on the truth.
When Ilara woke, she was in the chapel above the hidden ward. The floor had partially collapsed inward, exposing broken beams and a depth of darkness below that swallowed the light of Mara's flashlight. Emergency crews arrived before sunrise, but the chamber they described finding beneath the chapel did not match what Ilara remembered. No black water, no observation glass, no notes on the walls. Only old foundations, rusted pipes, and the remains of a burned records cabinet no one could explain. Mara stayed silent while officials spoke. She had heard the voices too. She had seen the names carved by children's hands. But fear had already begun converting the impossible into paperwork. As they wheeled Ilara past the chapel doors, she noticed one final thing. On the back of the pew in front of her, carved freshly into the wood, were 5 careful words. I am not alone now. And from somewhere deep below the hospital, very faintly, came the sound of children no longer crying. They were singing.
Did we stop it?
No.
Then what did we do?
We taught it our names.
Morning never fully arrived. Fog wrapped the hospital grounds so tightly that even the floodlights looked weak inside it. Officials moved in rehearsed patterns, measuring, photographing, sealing entrances, speaking in that careful tone people use when reality has become embarrassing. Ilara stood beneath a thermal blanket, staring at the upper windows of the West Wing. She knew the story would be buried again if she let them write it first. Hidden wards would become unverified structural anomalies. Dead children would become missing records. Suffering would be filed into the same silence that had fed the thing below the chapel for decades. Then Noah was brought outside under escort. He looked fragile, emptied out, but conscious. As he passed Ilara, he turned toward the hospital and stopped walking. The lullaby drifted faintly through the fog. Not from underground this time, from everywhere. From the windows, from the drains, from the mouths of the building itself.
It's not trapped in the ward anymore.
Don't say that.
It was never the room. It was the silence around it.
Then how do we stop it?
We make sure it can't hide again.
The hospital director tried to stop her. Legal staff stepped in. A police officer asked her to rest. But Ilara had spent too many years inside rooms where pain was renamed until no one had to answer for it. So she walked past the barricade and stood before the cameras. Her hands trembled, not from fear now, but from the weight of what truth costs when institutions have practiced forgetting. Mara moved to her side without a word. Noah remained near the ambulance, listening. Ilara spoke the names she had memorized from the hidden ward. She described the children's beds beneath the chapel, the recordings, the false reports, her mother, the experiments hidden inside treatment. With every sentence, the lullaby around the hospital changed. It weakened. It no longer sounded hungry. It sounded wounded, like something losing the dark that kept it alive.
They were patients. They were children. They were abandoned, studied, and erased.
I saw it too. All of it.
These claims are unverified and deeply irresponsible.
No, silence was irresponsible.
That evening, after the cameras were gone and the authorities had no choice but to open the old archives, Ilara returned to the chapel one last time. The fog had lifted. For the first time, the building looked tired instead of watchful. She stood at the broken edge of the floor and looked down into the dark beneath. There was no black water now, no whispering in her mother's voice, only a deep stillness, and within it, something softer than fear. Then she saw them. Not fully, not like bodies, but impressions in the dust-filled light below. Small figures, children standing hand in hand. Beside them, a taller woman-shaped shadow, no longer monstrous, only sorrowful. The singing returned once more, but now it was low and distant, like a lullaby finally reaching its end. Ilara closed her eyes and spoke a final goodbye to her mother, to the children, to the version of herself left buried in that place. When she opened them again, the silhouettes were gone. The hospital settled with a long, tired groan, and for the first time since that first impossible night, the silence felt natural.
I remember you. All of you.
The building did not answer.
Ilara, it's time to go.
Yes.
Don't forget to subscribe my channel and miss the other stories.